college is 100% an option for, I think, anyone. It just takes a little bit of like digging, and not that you have to go either. Like everyone's path is different, everybody's journey is different, but I think knowing that college is in the cards for you, no matter what your financial background is. Sometimes it takes, maybe someone making a video like this, or, a foundation reaching out and saying, hey, like, you can do this. So I guess I'm just saying, you can do it. I would say, well, I grew up in a youth foundation that, it helped, the slogan is help at-risk youth get into college on scholarship. So college was always like a thing there, but I never really found, there were probably moments where I worried about like, oh, maybe I need to go to a really good school, like for the foundation, or I just need to like get into a good college. But really those thoughts or feelings never really like overpowered me or had any real weight. Like I knew that my worth didn't come from going to college or getting into a college. And so I think firstly, that's something that I want to just say like outright is everybody's journey is different. You don't have to go to college to be successful or to be happy. And like happiness really does just lie within yourself. So if you're trying to find happiness in getting into an Ivy League school or getting that great internship or that great job, through my own experience of trying to find happiness in external things, it isn't it. So I guess I just wanted to clarify that as well, as like college isn't everyone's path, and that's not what defines success. And I think I always knew that. So when I went into applying to colleges, there wasn't a lot of, I noticed like a lot of people before me would say, oh, it was so stressful, like I'm doing college applications and they're stressing out and trying to meet the deadlines. And I don't think I ever really had that like overwhelming stress, because I knew like what college I got into didn't matter. It didn't define my worth or who I was. So I was like, I just want to like have fun with this process. Like I want to dig deep within myself. And every essay I wrote, I think I cried my eyes out. I just dug deep like within my soul through like my personal story and just my life experience. And for me, it was a really beautiful, loving, reflective experience, and one of like probably the greatest memories of my last 5 years, just reflecting on like all the growth and all the challenges and all the things that shaped me into the person that I am and am becoming still. So I think just outright, like, don't give in to the stress or the worry or overwhelm or anxiousness of applying to colleges, because that's not where like your worth is defined. Coming from someone who really used to struggle with self-worth, I ended up trying to commit suicide twice when I was 13 because I didn't understand what my purpose was and didn't feel like I had any value. But through the Inspiring Children Foundation and through healing within myself, that's one of the most, I think, powerful insights that I've learned, is that happiness doesn't rely on anything outside of ourselves. It's all within. So that was one lesson, I guess, from the whole college experience. And I really did love it. And I think anyone that's applying to college should really approach it as an opportunity really just to reflect and dive deep within yourself and to share who you are. Share who you are beyond your test scores and your GPA and even your extracurriculars. Like, just show the person that's going to read your application, like, who you are as a person. And I think that's super important in applying to schools because, a lot of people have great GPAs, a lot of people have great test scores, but, I think it's the human spirit that counts. So I dove into applications and I poured my soul out in every single one of them. I love them. And I actually, for those of you that might procrastinate a little bit, definitely procrastination is not a good thing, but I did work on my applications till the night they were due. And I stayed up till I stayed up really late. I think it was the day before they were due. And I probably stayed up till 3 a.m. working with another friend because we were both applying to colleges. But it was such a fun experience. It it was like kind of a grind, but it didn't really feel like a grind because I was just doing something that I loved. Like I was just expressing myself through my applications. And so that was a really cool experience too. So I think just having fun with the process, like don't let it be this daunting, like overwhelming thing that you have to do. Just approach it as like a fun project or a fun way to like reflect on life, because it is really cool to dig deep within yourself. It's a cool experience. Now it's funny that we might call this like how BOBA got me into Stanford, because obviously it wasn't BOBA itself. Even though I love BOBA, I love it so much. But for me, I wrote about BOBA in my application to Stanford. And I wrote about it not because I love BOBA and, the little boba balls on the bottom and how it tastes and everything about it, but I wrote about BOBA because I had so many meaningful experiences over BOBA with my friends. I would say a lot of my friendships are very, very deep and meaningful and have so much depth. And I know a lot of my friends, like their entire life story and all the things that they struggle with and go through on a daily basis. And BOBA was kind of my positive social life way of having deep conversations with people over BOBA and having meaningful connections and conversations, which I think has been and still is a huge part of my life. And what I love is connecting to other people on a deep level and getting to learn like who they are and what they experience and what they go through. So I included BOBA in my application, not because I love BOBA, maybe that was a little part of it, but because of the meaningful connections that I made through BOBA. I ended up applying to about 10 schools, and all very good schools, because my path was kind of leading me to take a postgraduate year, a gap year, and maybe we can talk about that in another video, but I highly, highly suggest taking a gap year. It has been one of the most beautiful experiences of my life, and I've learned and I've grown so much since. So I'm a huge advocate for gap years. Separate story, but just wanted to put that out there. But when I was going into applying for colleges, I was kind of already set on like, I'm probably gonna take a gap year, but I wanted to apply first and see if I could kind of finish the college process before I took a gap year, instead of having to do it later in my gap year. So I ended up applying to 10 schools, and I basically applied to no backup schools, knowing that I was probably going to take a gap year, and I was just like, just take a leap of faith. I'll just apply to like schools that seem interesting to me. That's another thing. I was never ever super clear on where I wanted to go to college or why I wanted to go to college, and I still don't know like what I'm going to college for in terms of majors. But I was never super clear on like what to look for in a school or anything like that. And I would say in my personal life, I'm very much about like going with the flow and being intuitive and really just like listening to myself. So for me, when I was picking schools, I was just like, this sounds interesting, this sounds interesting, this sounds cool. And I really didn't decide that like I really wanted to go to Stanford until an alumni interview I had, and I met an incredible person who interviewed me for Stanford, and we had a super long conversation, super deep. It was great and I loved it. And that's when I was like, wow, like that person was awesome and she makes me want to go to Stanford. So I think sometimes it's stress that you have to know, and you have to have your college list all set and, all like figured out, and you have to have your backup plan and, plan A, plan B, plan C. But for me, it wasn't like that. It was just kind of like, this sounds interesting. This sounds interesting. I'll just apply to them and see what happens. So I applied to 10 schools, and all of them were like very, very good schools, like most of the Ivy Leagues, just like Georgetown, U Chicago, just like great schools, Stanford. And I applied. And after that, I didn't think about it too much. Like I was just kind of like, I really, in my life, have had certain experiences, and, I just really trusted in doing the right things. And throughout the last 5 years of my life, I've really dedicated and committed myself to just following and listening to myself and trying to be my best every single day by, making right choices. And I'm super big into meditation as well, which has helped me a ton, kind of like emotionally and mentally. I got 8 letters back from schools that I applied to, and all 8 of them were rejection letters in one day. And it was so cool. I know this is crazy, but it was so, so, so cool because I read rejection letter after rejection letter, and I was still at peace. I was still happy. I was still content. And it was kind of like I already knew within myself that my worth didn't lie in college or where I got in. But I thought it was super cool that life gave me the opportunity to kind of test me and see if I was for real in that belief that, or knowing that my worth comes from within me and not from anything else. And it was so cool because I got rejected by 8 schools and I was like, yes, I am still happy. I am still at peace. I knew my worth didn't come from getting into college. This is great. And so it was just a beautiful experience because if I rewind back in my life, I used to struggle so much with my self-worth to the point where I tried to kill myself twice. And to fast forward 5 years later and get rejected by, 8 schools in a row on the same day and still be happy and smiling and at peace and just in love with my life it was just beyond cool. Just to kind of, I think, reflect on what a dark place I had been in to have done all the work that I did in my life to get to a point where something like that didn't even faze me. So it was just a really cool experience getting rejected by 8 schools. So after getting rejected by 8 schools, I wasn't planning on getting into the other 2 because they were all very good schools that I got rejected by, and the other 2 were very, very good schools as well. It was Stanford and Georgetown. And I think it was the next day that I checked my email and Stanford had emailed. And so I clicked on it, didn't even think about it. I just clicked on it and I opened it and it said, congratulations. And I was like, what? It was just crazy. And it was just so crazy. It wasn't about, for me in that moment, it wasn't about me getting into Stanford more than it was wow, life does just really work out if you do the right things and you really try and give your best effort and really just try to do good. And I guess to close it off, I just want to say none of our worth is defined by anything outside of ourselves. So Stanford doesn't define who I am. Whatever college or whether you go to college doesn't define who you are. Really, life is just about being present and, giving our best every day. And I found through doing that, I found a great amount of peace and joy and just happiness in my life. So I think my personal story and experiences played a huge factor in, getting into college. So I just wanted to touch on a couple, I think, personal things that really helped me, not just get into college, but really just helped me in my life. So I got introduced to meditation when I was about 13, when I was struggling with depression and had attempted to take my own life twice. And I found meditation through the Inspiring Children Foundation, which I had just become a part of. And I would say meditation has been probably the most powerful tool in my life because it helped me separate from all of my negative thoughts and feelings. And it just created a separation between myself and my thoughts so that I could choose whether or not to feed into my negative thoughts and feelings. So I would just say meditation has been a huge part of my life, and I definitely don't think I would be, even going to college or even be alive today without it. So I would include that as a tip for college and just for life in general, because it really helped me just realize that I'm not my negative thoughts and feelings, and I can choose whether I feed into them or believe in them or not. So I'm really grateful for meditation for that. And I think through that, it allowed me to go through a healing process with myself. And by going through that process, I was able to heal my relationship with the people around me, especially my mom and my dad. So with my mom, I never really had a relationship with her growing up, but through meditation, through the foundation, and through just my own healing journey, I was able to, open up to my mom, and I'm really grateful for her because she went on an extraordinary journey of healing herself. And so I felt like we were really able to grow together and learn how, to be open and to really create a meaningful relationship with each other that, I don't think we really had when I was younger, just because we were separated a lot, and, there were a lot of challenges going on in our lives. So I would say that was a big factor. And then especially healing my relationship with my dad, who I had a lot of resentment for. And I would say that relationship caused me a lot of pain because of the way that I chose to deal with it. My dad struggled with, addiction and just his emotions in general, and didn't really know how to heal or deal with his trauma. And when I was young, I kind of took that weight onto my shoulders and felt like it was my fault, or that there was something that I needed to do to help him or fix him. But it seemed like no matter how hard I tried, whatever I did, it never seemed like enough. My dad was still depressed, telling me how he wanted to kill himself all the time. And I just didn't really understand what my purpose was. And I defined my purpose as, being my dad's savior. And when I felt like I couldn't do that, I felt like a failure. But through, just like my mom, through my own personal healing and through the Inspiring Children Foundation, I learned that I wasn't my negative thoughts and feelings and my bad habits. And so that helped me realize that neither is my dad. And so I made a deal with myself that, I would call my dad every single day, even if he spent 3 hours on the phone yelling at me, telling me how worthless I was, how it was my fault that he wanted to kill himself, that I was the cause of his drinking and depression and just a lot of other crazy things. But through mindfulness and meditation, I was able to sit through those phone calls and learn how to let go of my hate and my resentment and my sadness and my pain, to the point where I felt like I was able to sift through all of it and let it all go, to the point where I could sit on a phone call with my dad the whole time without getting angry or upset, and just really being present and being in love, and knowing that, my dad's drinking or his challenges or, him yelling at me, that's not who he is. Just like I'm not my negativity or my anger, neither is he. So I would say meditation has been pivotal in my own personal growth, but through my own personal growth, I was able to heal my relationship with my mom and my dad. And I would say that's just been an immense part of my life, but also an immense part of, my college applications, and being able to share my story and my experiences on a really, really deep level. So I'm very grateful for Stanford, for BOBA, and for QuestBridge, which is a scholarship that I got. Also the Cherrial Odell National Scholarship, extremely grateful. And of course, I'm so immensely grateful for the Inspiring Children Foundation, which, I definitely wouldn't be going to Stanford without them, but I don't think I would be alive today without them, because they really helped me heal and, grow within myself during a time where I didn't want to live anymore. So I'm super grateful for everyone that's, helped me along this journey. And I think in life, we never do it alone. So Stanford is really not a reflection of even me, but all the people that have, taken time to invest in me and help me along the way in big and small ways. So peace out, and may the force be with you.